Today, friends, we're going to use Tinkercad to create fantastic 3D printable threads. So let's get cracking. Friends, we're going to start with a calculator. Please type bit.ly/tinkthread and press enter. This is a Google document called Printable Thread Pitch. You can simply hit make a copy and you'll have your very own version of it. Notice right here it says version 1 and this is 7/21/25. I'll make a YouTube short if I ever change it. I'll also make sure I add a comment in this video. So what we've got is a desired opening. I'm choosing to make one that has a 40mm top. This is the only thing you change. Everything else just shows up. I've got a printed version of the 40 already complete. I'm going to take one down to size 34 just so we can test these measurements as well. I have not printed a ton of these, but I do believe the technique will work for just about any thread. It would be interesting to see just how small we can make them. So with these numbers converted, let's move to Tinkercad. If you've never used Tinkercad before, you can get here. We're using Tinkercad.com. I always choose sign in with Google. This is what designs look like. You can see they are saved to the cloud. I've had a few of these as I was fiddling. I'm going to take you in the size 40 real quick and let me show you what it looks like. This is the thread. Now this thread is shared by ZDP 189. It has characteristics that make it better for 3D printers. The sloped angles make it easier for the 3D printer to print it, and they turn out really slick. It has 6 starters so that they're easy to put on, and they tighten really quick. Once again, that's the working version. You can see how slick it turned out. Really quickly, let me bounce you back, and let's make a scratch one. We're simply going to hit create brand new 3D design. I am going to start by naming it. We're going to call it thread 34. And we're going to search for the star of the show, the thread shape. If you type thread, bingo, it shows up. And we'll bring the thread out. I do want to highlight, a lot of people use this isometric thread. I'll set it beside it, and I'm going to show you real quickly, its thread pitch is a little bit harder for 3D printers to work with. That is why ZDP came up with this awesome technique. If you haven't seen my how to make an ISO thread, I will have that listed up above. So now let's go to the spreadsheet. First, we're going to make the screw neck. Once again, these are the numbers that were calculated. For that size 34, I'm going to type 19 and press enter, 20 and press enter, although that already was there. And then we're going to do 2, press enter, and 1, press enter, and 1 for the number of turns. We're going to keep the 64, we're going to keep the 20, and we've got to make it clockwise. Notice the red lines as the system is thinking. Just be patient as that all snaps into place. I'm also going to hit D to drop so it's at the correct level. Now friends, this is our thread, and when you look at it from this angle, you can see that's why it's easy for a 3D printer to print. It slopes up all the way around. That is the basis of the system. The next thing I want to share is that we're going to have 6 starters. What that means is we do Control D. We rotate this 60 degrees. Notice I moved the mouse a long ways away. I'm letting it get to any number, and then I'm going to type the -60 or +60 and press enter. And then we'll do Control D again and again until we have 6 of them. Those are the 6 starters for our project. I'm going to bring out another one of these for later, and I'm going to grab the tube. When we bring it out, these are the numbers that we had at the first part. Remember where it had the tube walls and the tube radius? We simply go over here and we type those in. So for our shape, it's going to be 19. And then the wall thickness is going to be 2 and press enter. If we select all of these and do L for align, I'll let this one be the boss and choose center, center. And then don't forget you want to center them vertically as well. Right there, that is the neck of the container that we're going to build. Right now we need to trim this off. I'm going to do that by cruising this out on the orange piece. Notice if you miss, you could just hit the work plane and set it there. And then we're going to make it larger than the shape. So I'm just stretching it past with the black handles. And then I'm going to take note of the height. See how this is 20? So if I do Control D and D to drop. Now if I push this down -20, it is exactly at the 0 point of the project. I'm going to quickly select just the orange piece. Let's double check our sides. It was at 48. I'm going to put that to the max of 128. Now we can select all of this and do Control G to group. Bang, you have got a 3D printable thread. How cool is that? Let's real quickly make our top. Once again, we're going to click on this thread, and now we're going to use the screw top info. So these just really have 0.2 added. So we're going to put 19.2, and we're going to put 20.2. And then this one goes 1, 2, 1, and press enter. Notice if the design ever looks wacky, just type those numbers again and press enter. And then don't forget, we keep the 64, the 20, but we have to switch it to clockwise. When we're done, we can grab the thread, do the Control D, rotate it 60 degrees. Notice I go anywhere, and then I type the 60, and then do Control D again and again and again until we have all 6 of them. I'm going to grab those real quick and hit D to drop. Now as we bounce back to the spreadsheet, you'll notice I'm already at V1. That is because I added this 2 walls and the radius down here for what we're going to build next for the screw top. Really quickly, I want to back out and show you something real cool. This is our workspace. Once again, these are our projects. This is that thread 34 we were working on. What I want to show you, though, is that we can go back through version history. What you've got here is I finished this project to make sure that it printed the way I expected before I recorded the video. Now, I want to go back and show you the steps to make it. Check this out. Version history. There are 143 versions, and I can check back for 4 hours ago or 5 hours ago. I know that I quit at about 8:48 because I had to go walk the puppy. So if we go back here, bingo, we can find version 66, and I simply hit restore, and bang, I have got the exact copy from when I quit. You can see I already did it once, so we can actually restore more than once as we're working on our projects. This is a fantastic technique if you ever make a mistake and want to go back to the previous version you liked. As you can see, there are our threads. This is the finished one for the throat, and right now we're building the top. To build that top, we were going to use a tube, and don't forget our radius was 22, which we got from the calculator, and we did size 2, and this time we're going to maximize the sides right from the beginning. Once again, select them all, L for align. I'm going to click on a thread to make it the boss, choose middle, and middle to get them all aligned. Do remember we also need to align the threads to the middle of this tube. Notice I just click the tube to choose that as the master, and then bang, it is in place. Of course, we need to do those cuts. Once again, we're going to do that by simply ungrouping it, selecting these, doing Control D, Shift nudge to the right to get them close. We can go back to this set and do Control G to regroup them. And then we're going to simply grab all of this and do L for align, and we want to align it to the tube, simply center and center. With those all in place, we can now do Control G to group. So this is the inside and this is the outside of our thread. We have one more step to make this easier to work with. We need to trim this with a cone. We're going to do that by simply bringing the cone out and then once again returning to our spreadsheet, and this is where you find the cone numbers. Remember, ours was 19.1 and press enter. The base radius is 20.6 and press enter, and then we always use the height of 1.1. I left the sides at 48. We need this to be a hole, and then we need to cut it out with an inverse hole. So we're simply going to bring out a cube. Make sure it is larger than the shape that we had. That is bigger in every direction. Now I can do Shift Select to grab those two. L for align, make the red one the boss, and choose center and center. And we do want it at the bottom. When you do Control G, if you look underneath, you'll see that is cut out. That makes it an inverse hole. Now that we click the hole option, we can simply grab our shape over here, do L for align, and choose middle and middle. Quite often I like to look at this from a corner so it's easier to find that middle one. And now we just raise this up until it's ready to trim. To get it to the perfect height, you simply switch to the 0.1 nudge. Notice when you do control down and you see the gray where this would be cutting out that top edge, you just do control up, one more click. Select those and do control G to group. Now these are trimmed so that it's easier for the thread to start. Now you can add these to whatever container you wanted. I'm going to simply make a fake container with the tube. I like this because I can quickly set the sides to 12. That gives you something to hang on to, and we can use our old tube measurements to get this pretty quickly. If we type in that 22, real quickly, I'm going to cruise this on top by hitting the letter C, grabbing that dot and just setting it up on top of the shape. Then we can select the two of them, choose L for a line, and I'm going to click on the thread and choose center and center. Looking real quickly, you can see that that does connect. We can adjust those numbers if we want. Let's see what happens if we do 21. I like that even better. It's inside, everything's groovy. I'm going to leave that one alone. I do want to come over here and do the same type of thing. Once again, Control D. Let's move this over with Shift Nudge. This time when we select the two, we're going to do L for a line, make the purple one the boss, center, center, and then we want this to be further out. So I'm going to just take this and make it 23. That's not quite far enough. I'm going to try 24. And then I'm going to set this wall thickness to just 1, making sure that it does not touch the threads. Let's see if we can get by with 23. Yes, we can. Now on both ends, we'll be able to grip the parts. And a little more than 30 minutes later, let's see what we made. We've got a thread. Remember, we cut the top. And bingo, it works just like that. 3D printable, Tinkercad threads. You pick your size, and bam, you're good to go. Now, friends, this is the version I sent to the 3D printer. Obviously, I'm showing you on the screen. It worked like a champ. I do want to remind you, try this so you can get the hang with your printer. I'm using a P1S from Bamboo Labs. 0.2 is a good gap for that. If yours is too tight, just rework the calculations with 0.3 or 0.4 once you get it figured out so it works for your printer. Then, of course, you can start making your own awesome projects with all sorts of threads. Once again, friends, I want to give a huge shout out to ZDP189 for sharing the technique. Of course, I also want to say thank you to everybody that supports me via YouTube memberships. Remember, there are 3 different levels of support, starting as low as $5 a month. With any of those levels of support, you get early access to videos. I also want to say thank you to everybody that support me via Patreon. Love how that group is growing. You really need to check out the awesome messaging board. You can, of course, learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget, every time you hit that like button, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe. You're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.